Hey, good morning, YouTube. This morning, what we're going to do is we're going to start on the brake system. What I thought we'd do is we've done all the suspension. We've torn the suspension out and put the suspension back in. So now that we have the suspension back together, we're going to work on the brake system. We're going to replace the master cylinder because I noticed a little bit of paint peeling below the booster, and so that is usually a sign that the seal on the back of the master cylinder is starting to seep. That brake fluid has dripped onto the booster and destroyed the paint. So we'll take a look at that. We'll pull the master cylinder out. We're going to go ahead and replace all the hoses because they're rubber and I don't know how long they are. I'm going to take a look at the calipers, see if they need to be rebuilt. The brake pads all look in pretty good shape, so I'm just going to take them off and put them back on. Same thing with the rotors. So we'll probably reuse the rotors. We'll reuse the calipers, the brake pads. But we'll change out the hoses, change out all the fluid. Now, when you flush a brake fluid system, there are two different style systems, and so you would flush out the systems according to what you have. Now, on most rear-wheel drive cars, which is our Corvette, you would have a front-to-rear split. So that means you have one line that goes to the back of the car and then splits and goes to the left rear and the right rear. And then one line that goes to the front of the car and splits, right? So you have two reservoirs on your master cylinder. One reservoir is strictly doing the back of the car. One reservoir is strictly doing the front of the car. Now, if you have a front-wheel drive car, you usually have what's known as a diagonally split system, which would be the left front and the right rear, and the right front and the left rear. So one front, one back, one front, one back. That's front-wheel drive. Rear-wheel drive, both backs, both fronts are tied together. So in our case, being rear-wheel drive, we have a front-to-rear split. We'll bleed the system accordingly. So you always want to start as far away from the master cylinder as you can. So in our case, we're going to start with the right rear, and then because it's a front-to-rear split, we'll go right rear, left rear. Then we'll go to the other system. We'll go right front, left front. Right? And once again, if it was a diagonally split, we'd do right rear, left front, because that would be the same system. And then left rear, right front, because it would be the same system. But we'll do the back of the car, then we'll do the front of the car. So that's what we have planned for the next project. We just finished up the bleeding of the clutch system. So if you saw that video, man, that was some really bad fluid in there. There was a lot of, that was pretty dark. So it was a good thing we changed that. The clutch feels really good now that we've got it all cleaned out. Hopefully we'll get the brakes. Actually, I drove the car before I tore the engine apart, and the brakes felt great. I was just concerned because I saw that paint peeling on the bottom of the master cylinder. And when I pulled the master cylinder out, you could see a very small amount of weepage. So it was starting to go. So that's today's project. I hope you'll stick with me and we'll see what we can do. Thanks, YouTube. Hey, so there is one other little thing that I did want to mention. Because this is a 1984 car, this car does not have ABS. ABS came in I believe 86. I believe 84 and 85 don't have ABS. I believe 86, late 86, early 87, they started the ABS. I'm not quite sure exactly when that happened, but I believe it's that time. The easy way to tell that is on the Corvettes, you have those two doors behind your seats. If both of those doors are, when you lift them, they're empty, then you don't have ABS. If you open the door behind the driver's seat on your Corvette and you see a big block down there, that will be your ABS module, and now you will have to bleed your brakes accordingly, right? Sometimes, depending on the system, some systems actually have bleeders. Some systems you have to open and close the solenoids with the scan tool. So you have to look at your manual and figure that out. Because our system is an 84, we don't have ABS, so it'll run straight across. All right, thank you. All right, next step, put the brakes back together. All right, I got some new rubber kit. AC Delco 18K 1182 was the rubbers for this. All right, so we put a little brake lube on the pins, and I also put a little bit inside the caliper hanger. And that will keep the water out and allow the caliper to slide around.
So they come with brand new copper crush washers. Alright, so you want to make sure that you replace them and don't reuse them, right? Because they only get crushed one time. Now these are already loose because I cut them, I don't know, months ago when I took the system apart. There's 2 notches and they're offset, right? So you gotta make sure that you put the notches in the right spot. And then there's a locking retainer. Holds that in place. Alright, so you got that locked in. Go ahead, give this a start. You want to make sure that you use line wrenches. I'm using a 12 and a 5/8. 5/8 seem to fit pretty tight on that, and 1/2 inch seemed just a tad loose, so I went with a 12 millimeter. So we've got that, and then we just got to torque this one nut, and we'll be finished. Alright, last thing we'll do is torque these crush washers. Alright, so they're 32 foot-pounds. You probably really ought to be careful with them because there's a fine line between crushing the copper washer and this caliper's aluminum. So you go too hard on the aluminum and you'll destroy the caliper. Not tight enough on the copper washers and you'll never crush them. So. Alright, so we've got some new crush washers. One goes on each side of the line. So we want to torque this brake hose. Pretty critical. It's 32 foot-pounds. It's an aluminum caliper. If you go too tight, you'll destroy the caliper. If you don't go tight enough, then you'll never crush the copper rings and you won't have a good seal. So, pretty important that this particular bolt gets torqued correctly. We got 32 foot-pounds. Alright, we've got that tightened up. We'll take that off, put that aside. Now there is a small adjusting screw right there. You shouldn't have to adjust it, but you can adjust it to take either free play out of the pedal or put free play into the pedal if it's too tight. Alright, next thing we're going to do is bench bleed this master cylinder, AC Delco number 18M39438, GM number 19313398. So that is what they told me fits my 1984. So the first thing we'll do is pull the switch out of the old master cylinder. So we'll go ahead and clean that up just a little bit. Make sure that we got all that out. I'll drop that down inside that hole. All right. Switch is actually plastic. Plastic switch, you want to be very careful not to strip that out. So, try to draw these up into this cup. We got that one in. Got that one in. Now, fill this up with enough brake fluid that it submerges these tubes. And we'll just start pumping it, and we'll wait for the air to come out of it. All right? And the idea here is you're pushing air out, but the tube, since it's in the liquid, sucks the liquid back in. So as we do this, it should stop getting the air out. And I can see now that we're just putting pressure in, right? All right. And that, my friends, that is all there is to bench bleeding a master cylinder. Okay. So we'll pull them back out. Put our caps on. Caps on. Go ahead and unscrew these. And it's going to drip. It's going to make a mess. Be very careful about the paint on your car. Next thing we're going to do, got them in, cover that. Let's get the bottom line started. Next line started. All right, so we've got all three of our lines started. We'll go ahead and bolt our master cylinder back in place. Use a lock nut so we don't have to worry about lock tightening anything in place. Now the other thing is too, this is a 1984, and 1984 they did not have ABS brakes. I don't think they started putting them on until 86. I think 84 and 85 don't have ABS. 84 and 85 have a compartment. Well, they all have compartments behind both seats. I think in 86 or 87, the compartment behind the driver's seat has the ABS module in it. But since I don't have ABS in the 84, that compartment is empty. So there's storage behind both seats in an 84, and I believe in 85. And then in 86, possibly 87, somebody can make a comment if they know for sure. 87, I believe, the compartment behind the driver's seat then started getting utilized by the ABS module, so it was no longer just a storage compartment. All right, so why I have this rear out of here, a good time to change all the brake hoses. I'm going to put the master cylinder in as well, but none of the lines want to come out. So what we'll do is put a little heat to the spitting, and then once we get a little heat to it, then we'll try to back it off again. Usually doesn't take much heat. As soon as you see the brake fluid starting to boil, you're usually in pretty good shape. And don't be surprised if that hose blows off like it did. I think 2 out of 4 of my hoses did exactly that. They blew out. But kind of one way to know that you got the thing warm enough, right? Last thing you want to do is try to replace these metal lines. That's no fun at all. A little more rust lubricant on there. Let it cool back down. All right, here is the drum in the hat system. Here's your adjuster right here. Just a small drum brake, cable operated. All right. The cable gets hooked in right here. You pull on that. That makes your brake pads stretch out. Right. There we go, it's in a bracket. So I'm at the right rear of the car. I'm going to open the bleeder. Put my valve on there. See how dark that fluid is. That's the fluid that was left in the lines and that was left in the caliper. 10 millimeter. So now we'll start with the right front. All right, we've got our rear brakes done. All right, so now we'll do the last one. All right, there's all 4 of our tires, or all 4 of our brakes. Fluid's nice and clear out of each one. All right, so I pumped up the brakes, top off the fluid. All right, so we've got the fluid topped off. Fluids are topped off, front and back. Brake field's hard as a rock. Just open this valve up real quick and we'll just see if we get any couple little it's a nice solid fluid there. And I thought it would be because it felt really good. And I'll go around and I'll do this to each one, just make sure there's no air pockets in the top of each one. All right.